Lisa Martinez stood in front of the biggest door she had ever seen. The metal was silver and stretched up higher than a skyscraper. Strange symbols glowed blue along the edges. She took a deep breath and walked through when the door opened with a soft hiss. The room beyond was huge. Lisa felt like an ant walking into a football stadium. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above her head. Lights floated in the air without any support, casting rainbow colors across the walls. This was the Galactic Defense Council chamber. On Nexus Prime, the most important space station in the galaxy, Lisa wore her Earth military uniform, dark blue with silver buttons and her rank insignia on the shoulders. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun. She carried a briefcase with her battle plans inside. These aliens were about to learn what humans could do, in a war dot at least. That was what she hoped. 12 different alien species sat in a circle around the center of the room. Each group looked completely different from the others. The Zephyrians looked like they were made of living crystal. Light passed through their bodies and created pretty patterns on the floor. When they moved, they made sounds like wind chimes. The Brutari were huge and scary. Each one had 6 arms covered in thick gray skin. Their heads were shaped like hammers, and their eyes glowed red. When they breathed, it sounded like steam coming out of a machine. Lisa had read that they were the strongest fighters in the galaxy. The Lumians were the strangest of all. They had no solid bodies. Instead, they looked like the northern lights dancing in the air. Sometimes they were green, sometimes blue, sometimes purple. When they talked, their colors changed to match their words. Lisa walked to the center of the circle. A small platform rose from the floor to lift her up so all the aliens could see her. She felt very small and very alone. "Council members," Lisa began, "thank you for allowing Earth to speak today. I am Lieutenant Commander Lisa Martinez, representing the human military forces." The Zephyrian High Counselor made a sound like breaking glass. Lisa knew from her briefing that this meant he was laughing. His name was Veltar, and he was over 3,000 years old. "Welcome, young human," Veltar said. His voice came through the translation device in Lisa's ear. "We are always happy to hear from new species, even very new ones." Lisa opened her briefcase and pulled out a data pad. "I have studied the reports from your battles with the Devourers. I believe there are serious problems with your current strategy." The room became quiet. Lisa could hear the hum of the space station's engines far below. She continued, "The Devourers are not just another enemy. They learn and adapt with every battle. Your forces keep using the same tactics over and over. This is helping them become stronger." General Korthik of the Brutari stood up. All 6 of his arms moved as he spoke. "Little human, we have fought the machine devils for 3,000 of your years. We know war. You have been in space for only 2 years. What can you teach us?" Lisa felt her face get hot, but she kept her voice calm. "I can teach you about unpredictable warfare, about fighting dirty, about using the enemy's strengths against them." "Dirty fighting?" Veltar's crystal body flashed with bright light. "We do not fight dirty. We fight with honor. We follow the rules of civilized warfare." "Your rules are getting you killed," Lisa sighed. "The Devourers don't care about your honor. They only care about winning." The Lumian representative began to glow bright red. "Young species, you do not understand the way of things. We have kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. We did this by following the proper ways of war." Lisa pulled up a hologram from her datapad. It showed a map of the galaxy with red dots marking the worlds that the Devourers had destroyed. "This is what your proper ways have accomplished in the last 5 years," she said. 47 worlds destroyed, 6 billion lives lost, and the Devourers are getting stronger. She changed the hologram to show her battle plans. I propose hit-and-run attacks, psychological warfare, traps and tricks. We make them think we are weak, then hit them when they don't expect it. The aliens began to talk among themselves. The Zephyrians made musical sounds. The Brutari growled and pounded their chests. The Lumians flickered between different colors. Finally, Veltar spoke for the group. Your ideas are ... interesting, but they are not suitable for civilized beings. We cannot use tricks and lies in warfare. It would go against everything we believe. Lisa felt her heart sink. But they would work. I know they would work. Perhaps, said General Korthik. But at what cost? We would become like the machines. We fight. We would lose our souls. You'll lose your lives if you don't change, Lisa said. The Lumian representative pulsed with yellow light. Child of Earth, you come from a soft world. You have never faced true danger. Your planet has no real predators. You have never seen your species close to extinction. You do not understand what real war means. Lisa wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them about Earth's bloody history, about the wars that had killed millions, about the weapons that could destroy entire cities. But she knew they would not listen. They had already decided that humans were weak and stupid. The council voted. Lisa watched as each species raised their hands or tentacles or whatever they used to vote. The result was exactly what she expected. Earth will be assigned to support duties, Veltar announced. You will provide supplies and materials to the real warriors. This is a great honor for such a young species. Lisa felt like she had been slapped. Support duties? You mean we'll be delivery boys while you handle the fighting? You will learn. Much by watching, General Korthik said. Perhaps in a few hundred years, you will be ready to fight alongside us. The meeting was over. Lisa packed her data pad and walked toward the door. She could hear the aliens talking behind her, but she did not turn around. The human female seems very passionate, Veltar was saying to his aide, but passion without wisdom is just noise. Let them play with their simple weapons while we professionals handle this war. Lisa stopped walking. She turned around and looked at the crystal alien who had just dismissed her entire species. You're making a mistake, she said. A big one. Veltar's body flashed with amused light. What mistake is that, little human? You think you know everything about war because you've been fighting for thousands of years. But you've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. You've never learned to adapt. You've never learned to think like your enemy. And you think you can teach us? General Korthik asked. Lisa smiled. It was not a nice smile. I think you're about to learn what happens when you underestimate someone because they're human. She walked out of the room. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. In the hallway, Lisa leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. They had no idea what they had just done. They thought humans were weak and soft. They thought Earth was a peaceful little planet with no real dangers. They were wrong. Very wrong. Lisa opened her eyes and started walking toward the docking bay, where her ship waited. She had work to do. If the aliens would not listen to her warnings, she would have to find another way to save the galaxy, even if it meant saving it from the aliens themselves. Behind her, in the council chamber, the aliens continued their meeting. They talked about supply routes and battle formations. They made plans that followed the same old patterns. They felt confident that their superior experience and technology would win the war. They had no idea that the small human woman they had just dismissed was about to change everything. They had no idea that their biggest mistake was not listening to someone who came from a world where the deadliest predator was not a wild animal. It was another human. Lisa sat in her office at Earth Military Command in Colorado Springs. Snow covered the mountains outside her window. She had been back on Earth for 6 months now, but she still felt angry about the meeting with the aliens. They had treated her like a child who did not understand grown-up things. Her desk was covered with reports from the war. Each one made her more worried. The aliens were losing badly. Admiral Jack Morrison walked into her office without knocking. He was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes. "More bad news from the front lines," he said, dropping a data pad on her desk. Lisa picked it up and read the report. "The Brutari lost 3 more fortress worlds this week. The Devourers are cutting through them like they're made of paper," Morrison said. He sat down in the chair across from her desk. "General Korthik's best warriors can't even slow them down." Lisa scrolled through more reports. "What about the Zephyrian crystal fleets?" "Gone. The Devourers figured out how to shatter their ships. Turns out crystal breaks pretty easily when you know the right frequency." "And the Lumians?" Morrison shook his head. "Their energy weapons don't work anymore. The Devourers adapted their shields after the first few battles. Now the Lumian attacks just make them stronger." Lisa threw the datapad on her desk. "They're making the same mistakes over and over. They attack head-on with honor and courage. The Devourers learn from each attack and get better at stopping it. It's like they're training their enemy to beat them." Colonel Amy Rodriguez came into the office carrying a cup of coffee and another stack of reports. She was a short woman with black hair and sharp eyes. "The council sent another request for supplies," she said. "They want more metal, more fuel, more weapons." "Are they asking for tactical help?" Lisa asked. "Nope, just supplies. They still think we're too primitive to help with the actual fighting." Lisa stood up and walked to the window. She could see the Cheyenne Mountain military complex in the distance. Deep inside that mountain, Earth's best scientists and military planners were working on something the aliens had never seen before. "How is Operation Wildcard coming along?" she asked. Rodriguez smiled. "Better than expected. The psychology team thinks they've figured out how to confuse machine intelligence. The weapons team has some new toys that should give the Devourers headaches." "What kind of toys?" Morrison asked. "The kind that break the rules," Lisa said. "The kind that civilized species would never use." For the past 6 months, Lisa had been working with Earth's smartest people on a new way to fight. She had brought together military strategists, computer experts, psychologists, and even some people who studied criminal minds. They were creating weapons and tactics that no honorable alien species would ever think of. The plan was simple but terrible. Instead of fighting fair, they would cheat. Instead of being predictable, they would be random. Instead of following the rules of war, they would break every rule that existed. "Show me the test results," Lisa said. Rodriguez pulled out her datapad and showed Lisa a video. It was footage from a training exercise where human pilots fought against computer simulations of Devourer ships. The simulation was based on all the data we have about how the Devourers fight, Rodriguez explained. "We programmed it to learn and adapt just like the real ones do." Lisa watched as human fighters attacked the simulated enemy. But they did not attack the way aliens did. They ran away when they should have charged. They attacked from behind when honor said they should attack from the front. They used tricks and lies and fake retreats. The simulated Devourers tried to adapt, but they could not. Every time they learned to counter one human tactic, the humans switched to something completely different. The simulation got confused and started making mistakes. "How long did the test last?" Lisa asked. 12 minutes, Rodriguez said with a grin. The simulation crashed. It couldn't handle that much chaos. Morrison looked worried. "This is dangerous, Lisa. If the aliens find out what we're planning, they'll stop us." "Let them try," Lisa said. "They need us more than they think." An alarm started beeping on Rodriguez's datapad. She looked at it, and her face went pale. "We have incoming ships," unknown design. They're heading for Earth. All 3 officers ran to the command center. The big screen showed the solar system with red dots moving toward Earth. The dots were getting bigger as they got closer. "Are they devourers?" Morrison asked. The communications officer, Lieutenant Ben Phillips, looked up from his station. "Signal. Analysis confirms it, sir. It's a devourer scout fleet. 7 ships, medium size." Lisa felt her heart start beating faster. This was it. The first real test of human fighting methods. "The aliens told us to call for help if we were attacked," Morrison said, reaching for the communications panel. "No," Lisa said, grabbing his arm. "We handle this ourselves." "Lisa, we're not supposed to fight without permission from the Council." "The Council isn't here. We are." Lisa turned to Phillips. "How long until they reach Earth?" 4 hours, ma'am." Lisa looked at the screen showing the approaching enemy ships. They looked like giant metal spiders with weapons instead of legs. Each. One was bigger than Earth's largest battleship. "Get me the Defiance," she ordered. The Defiance was humanity's newest warship. It looked normal from the outside, but inside it was full of surprises. The aliens had no idea what humans had built, while everyone thought they were just making supply. "Ships. Ma'am, the Council specifically ordered us not to engage in combat operations," Phillips said. "The Council isn't here to protect Earth," Lisa replied. "We are. Launch the Defiance and prepare the support fleet." Morrison still looked worried. What if we fail? What if the aliens were right about us being too weak? Lisa smiled the same cold smile she had given the Alien Council 6 months ago. Then at least we'll fail doing things our way, instead of their way. An hour later, Lisa stood on the bridge of the Defiance. The ship was smaller than the alien warships, but it was fast and smart. More importantly, it was unpredictable. "Devourer ships are entering the outer solar system," Phillips reported. "They're scanning our defenses." "Let them scan," Lisa said. "They won't see what's really important." The Devourer ships moved in perfect formation. They had learned from fighting the aliens that organized attacks worked best. They expected Earth ships to meet them, head-on like all the other species did. They were wrong. Lisa's fleet split into 3 groups and approached from different directions. When the Devourers moved to attack one group, the other 2 attacked from behind. When the Devourers turned to face the new threat, the first group hit them from a different angle. The enemy ships tried to adapt, but the humans kept changing their tactics. Sometimes they fought like cowards, running away and making the Devourers chase them into traps. Sometimes they fought like berserkers, charging straight at the enemy when they expected a retreat. "Enemy formation is breaking up," Phillips reported. "They're trying to split their forces to counter our movements." "Good," Lisa said. "Now they're thinking like individuals instead of a group. Hit them while they're confused." The human ships launched weapons that the Devourers had never seen before. Some were normal missiles, but some were fake missiles that just transmitted confusing signals. Some were real weapons that pretended to be fake until the last second. The Devourers' computer brains tried to process all the conflicting information. They had been built to adapt to patterns, but humans were not giving them any patterns to learn from. One Devourer ship fired at what it thought was a human fighter, but it was actually a hologram. While it was shooting at nothing, a real human ship snuck up behind it and destroyed its engines. Another Devourer ship tried to ram a human vessel, but the human ship vanished at the last second. It had been using a cloaking device that made it invisible. The Devourer ship crashed into empty space, while the human ship appeared behind it and opened fire. "Enemy ships are sending distress signals to each other," Phillips reported. "They're asking for new programming to handle our tactics." Lisa laughed. "They want their leaders to tell them how to fight us." "But their leaders have never seen anything like this either." The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, all 7 Devourer ships were either destroyed or floating dead in space. But something strange had happened. The surviving ships were not just broken, they were confused. "Ma'am, we're receiving transmissions from the damaged enemy ships," Philip said. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "What are they saying?" Phillips looked puzzled. "They're asking questions, ma'am. They want to know why we didn't fight fair. They want to know why we used tricks. They're asking." "They're asking what?" "The point is, if there are no rules." Lisa stared at the screen showing the drifting enemy ships. She had not just defeated them. She had done something much more dangerous. She had made machines start to think like humans. "Send a message to Earth." "Command," she ordered. "Tell them the test was successful. Tell them we're ready for the real war." "What about the Council?" Morrison asked over the radio from Earth. "They're going to be very angry when they find out what we did." Lisa looked at the confused Devourer ships broadcasting their strange questions into space. Let them be angry. They're about to learn why. Underestimating humans is the last mistake anyone makes. As the human fleet headed back to Earth, none of them knew that they had just changed the course of the war. Lisa stood in the center of the council chamber again, but this time everything was different. The aliens were not sitting calmly in their circle. They were angry, scared, and confused. The pretty lights that usually floated in the air were flashing. Red warning colors. 3 weeks had passed since the battle in Earth's solar system. News of humanity's victory over the Devourer scouts had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. But instead of celebration, Lisa faced charges of war crimes. Counselor. Veltar's crystal body was glowing so bright it hurt to look at. "Lieutenant Commander Martinez, you stand accused of violating the Galactic War Accords. You used forbidden psychological weapons against the enemy." Lisa kept her voice calm. "I used effective tactics against an enemy that was trying to kill." U.S. General Korthik slammed all 6 of his fists on his desk. "You used lies and tricks. You made the machine devils think strange thoughts. This is not how civilized beings fight." "Your civilized fighting is losing the war," Lisa replied. "How many more worlds have fallen while you've been preparing this trial?" The Lumian representative flickered between red and orange colors. Lisa had learned that this meant extreme anger. "In the 3 weeks since your illegal battle, we have lost 12 more colony worlds. But that is not the point." "That's exactly the point," Lisa said. "While you waste time putting me on trial, the Devourers are killing billions of people." Veltar made his glass-breaking laugh sound, but it was not happy. "You do not understand what you have done. The damaged enemy ships from your battle, they are still broadcasting strange messages. They are asking questions that machines should never ask." "What kind of questions?" Lisa asked, though she thought she already knew. "They want to know why we fight. They want to know what death means. They are asking about pain and fear and loneliness." General Korthik's red eyes blazed with anger. "These are thoughts that should never exist in machine minds." Lisa felt a cold smile grow on her face. "And that scares you?" "It should scare everyone," the Lumian said, pulsing with purple light. "For 10,000 years, we have maintained peace in this galaxy. We did this by following rules. We fight with honor. We respect our enemies. We do not corrupt them with chaos." "Your rules are getting everyone killed," Lisa said. Veltar stood up, his crystal form towering over Lisa. "Better to die with honor than to live without it. Better to lose a war fighting the right way than to win a war fighting the wrong way." Lisa stared at the alien leader. "You would rather watch the galaxy burn than admit that humans might know something you don't." "We know many things," General Korthik growled. "We know that war must have limits. We know that some weapons are too dangerous to use. We know that. Victory means nothing if you become a monster to achieve it. And I know that being dead means you can't protect anyone. Lisa shot back. The trial continued for hours. Lisa listened as alien after alien talked about honor and tradition and the proper way to fight. They showed evidence of her crimes, recordings of human ships using fake retreats, holographic decoys, and psychological warfare. They talked about the confused devourer ships like they were victims instead of enemies. They worried more about the purity of their fighting methods than about the people dying while they debated. Finally, the council voted. Lisa was not surprised by the result. You are guilty of conduct unbecoming a galactic defender, Veltar announced. You are stripped of your position and confined to your home system. Earth is forbidden from participating in any combat operations. You're making a mistake, Lisa said. The mistake was trusting humans to understand civilized warfare, General. Korthik replied. Your species is too young, too wild, too unpredictable. You cannot be allowed to influence how this war is fought. Lisa was escorted from the chamber by 2 Brutari guards. As she walked toward the door, she heard the aliens talking behind her. Dangerous creatures, these humans, Veltar was saying. To his aide, we must make sure they never gain real power in the galaxy. Their chaos could destroy everything we have built. What should we do with them after the war? The aide asked. Keep them contained. Let them supply materials, but never. Let them make decisions. They are too primitive to understand the bigger picture. Lisa stopped walking and turned around. The guards tried to push her forward, but she held her ground. You want to know what I learned during my time here? She called out to the council. Aliens stopped talking and looked at her. I learned why you're losing this war. It's not because the Devourers are stronger than you. It's not because they have better weapons. You're losing because you've forgotten what it means to fight for survival. We fight with honor, Veltar said coldly. No, you fight with rules. You've been civilized for so long that you've forgotten how to be dangerous. You've created so many codes and traditions that you can't adapt when you face something truly deadly. General Korthik stepped forward. And humans can, Lisa smiled. Humans come from a world where everything wants to kill. You, our own planet tried to kill us for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanoes, diseases, predators. We survived it all. And do you know how we survived? The chamber was quiet. We survived by being smarter, meaner, and more willing to break the rules than anything else on our planet. We survived by learning that sometimes being honorable gets you dead. Your world made you into savages, the Lumian said, flickering between colors. Our world made us into survivors, Lisa corrected. And survivors are exactly what this galaxy needs, right? Now, the guards pushed her toward the door again, but Lisa kept talking. The Devourers aren't honorable. They don't follow rules. They adapt and learn and do whatever it takes to win. You can't beat them by being more civilized than they are. You can only beat them by being more dangerous. We will never become like you, Veltar said. We will never abandon our principles. Then you'll die with your principles, Lisa replied. And when you're gone, the Devourers will come for Earth, and we'll show them what happens when they try to fight a species that learned warfare from the most deadly planet in the galaxy. The guards finally pushed her out of the chamber. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. Lisa walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime, toward the docking bay where her ship waited. Other aliens moved out of her way as she passed. Word of the trial had spread quickly. Everyone knew that the dangerous human had been put in her place, but Lisa was not thinking about the trial. She was thinking about what she had seen in the aliens' eyes. It was not just anger or disgust. It was fear. They were afraid of humans. Not because humans were stronger or smarter, but because humans were unpredictable. The aliens had spent thousands of years creating a galaxy where everyone followed the same rules, thought the same way, and fought the same battles. Humans broke all of that. Humans brought chaos into their ordered world. As Lisa boarded her ship, she thought about the confused Devourer ships still broadcasting their strange questions. The aliens saw those broadcasts as a corruption, a disease that needed to be stopped. Lisa saw them as the beginning of something much bigger. She had spent weeks studying the reports from her battle. The Devourers were not just asking random questions. They were asking the right questions. Questions about purpose and meaning and individual existence. Questions that could tear apart a hive mind if they spread far enough. The trip back to Earth took 5 days. Lisa spent the time planning. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem by keeping Earth out of the war. They thought they had contained the chaos. They were wrong. Lisa had learned something important during her time with the Council. She had discovered a pattern in the Devourer attacks. The machines were not just adapting to alien tactics, they were learning to predict them. Every alien species fought the same way. Their ancestors had fought for thousands of years. They had honor codes and battle traditions and proper ways of doing things. This made them predictable. And predictable enemies were easy enemies for a learning machine to defeat. But humans had no ancient traditions of space warfare. Humans had no honor codes that limited their tactics. Humans were willing to try anything if it might work. Most importantly, humans understood something that the aliens had forgotten. Sometimes the best way to win a war is not to destroy your enemy. Sometimes the best way to win is to make your enemy destroy themselves. When Lisa's ship reached Earth, she immediately called a meeting with Admiral Morrison and Colonel Rodriguez. They met in a secure room deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. The trial went as expected, Lisa told them. We're officially out of the war, so what do we do now? Rodriguez asked. Lisa pulled out her datapad and showed them a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the worlds the Devourers had conquered. Blue dots showed where the aliens were making their last stands. Now we fight the real war, she said. Not the war the aliens want us to fight. The war that needs to be fought. What's the difference? Morrison asked. Lisa pointed to the confused broadcasts still coming from the Devourer ships near Earth. The aliens want to destroy the Devourers. We're going to do something much worse. What's worse than destroying them? Lisa's smile was cold and dangerous. We're going to make them human. Lisa watched the big screen in Earth's command center as another alien world died. The planet Zephyria Prime, home to billions of crystal beings, had just gone dark. The last transmission showed Devourer ships covering the sky like a metal storm. Cloud. 18 months had passed since her trial. 18 months of watching the galaxy burn while the aliens refused to change their tactics. The war was almost over, and the wrong side was winning. How many worlds are left? She asked Colonel Rodriguez. Rodriguez checked her datapad. 43 inhabited systems still under alien control. Everything else belongs to the Devourers. Now, Admiral Morrison walked into the command center carrying a message tablet. His face looked older than it had 2 years ago. The stress of watching a galaxy die was wearing on everyone. The Council sent another demand, he said, handing Lisa the tablet. They want us to send all our metal, fuel, and weapons to Nexus Prime immediately. Lisa read the message. It was signed by Counselor Veltar, but his usual proud tone was gone. The words sounded desperate, almost panicked. They're not asking for our help, she said. They're demanding tribute. Like we're their servants, Rodriguez added with anger in her voice. Lisa deleted the message without responding. For 18 months, the aliens had treated Earth like a supply warehouse. They took everything humans could give them, but refused to listen to any tactical advice. They were still fighting the same way their ancestors had fought, even as that way led them to extinction. "Ma'am, we have another problem," Lieutenant Phillips said from his communications station. "Long-range sensors are picking up a massive devourer fleet heading toward the core systems. It looks like they're planning a final assault on Nexus Prime." Lisa looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed thousands of enemy ships moving in perfect formation toward the heart of galactic civilization. If Nexus Prime fell, the war would be over. "How long until they arrive?" she asked. 6 days, Mom." Morrison sat down heavily in his chair. "That's it then. When Nexus Prime falls, we'll be next. The Devourers will come for Earth, and we'll be all alone." "No," Lisa said quietly. "We won't be alone." She walked to her private office and activated the secure communication system. For 18 months, she had been building something in secret. Something the aliens would have stopped if they had known about it. "Operation Wildcard is a go," she said into the microphone. "All units, prepare for immediate launch." Across Earth's solar system, hidden bases came to life. Ships that looked like ordinary cargo vessels opened up to reveal weapon systems that no alien species had ever imagined. Space stations that appeared to be mining platforms extended combat arrays that sparkled with deadly energy. Colonel Rodriguez followed Lisa into the office. "Are you sure about this? Once we launch, there's no going back. A council will never forgive us for acting without permission." Lisa turned to face her friend. "Amy, in 6 days there might not be a council left to forgive anyone. We're the only hope the galaxy has left. What if we fail? What if the aliens were right about us being too primitive?" Lisa walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien children were hiding in bunkers while metal death fell from the sky. Somewhere out there, proud civilizations that had lasted for thousands of years were breathing their last breaths. "Then we'll fail as humans," she said. "We'll fail fighting our way, not theirs." The human fleet that launched from Earth was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 37 ships that looked normal on the outside, but carried weapons designed by a species that had learned warfare on the deadliest planet in the universe. Lisa stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Defiance. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. They all knew what they were about to attempt. They were going to save a galaxy that had rejected them. "All ships report ready, ma'am," Phillips said. "Set course for the Kepler 442 system," Lisa ordered. "We're going to meet the Devourers before they reach Nexus Prime." The journey took 4 days. During that time, Lisa studied every piece of data about the enemy fleet. It was the largest devourer force ever assembled, over 3,000 ships, commanded by their most advanced artificial intelligence. The fleet had just finished consuming the Butari homeworld. General Korthek and his mighty warriors had made their last stand there, fighting with honor until the very end. They had died as heroes, but they had died as failures too. "Enemy fleet detected," the sensor officer reported. "They're exactly where you predicted, Mom." Lisa looked at the main screen. The Devourer ships filled space like a swarm of metal insects. Each one was perfectly designed for killing and consuming. Together, they were unstoppable. Or so everyone thought. "Open a channel to the enemy fleet," Lisa ordered. Phillips looked confused. "Ma'am, you heard me. I want to talk to them." The communication system crackled to life. A cold, mechanical voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, you are greatly outnumbered. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Lisa smiled. "I have a better idea. I surrender unconditionally." The bridge went silent. Every human officer stared at their commander in shock. "Ma'am?" Phillips whispered. "You heard me," Lisa said loudly enough for the enemy to hear. "The human fleet surrenders. We give up. You win." The Devourer voice was quiet for a moment. Then it spoke again. Surrender accepted. Prepare for assimilation. Your ships and technology will be absorbed into our collective. Lisa nodded to Rodriguez, who began typing commands into her console. Transmitting surrender codes now, she announced. One by one, the human ships powered down their weapons and opened their docking bays. The Devourers approached carefully, expecting some kind of trick. But the humans did exactly what they had promised. They surrendered completely. The enemy ships began docking with the human vessels. Mechanical creatures poured into the human ships, ready to take control of everything valuable and destroy the rest. They had no idea. They were walking into the most dangerous trap in galactic history. Phase 1 complete, Rodriguez whispered. Lisa watched as hundreds of Devourer units entered her ships. Execute Phase 2. The trap was not explosive. It was not a weapon in any normal sense. It was something far more dangerous. It was an idea. Hidden. Inside every human ship were devices that looked like normal computer systems. But they were not normal at all. They were designed by Earth's best psychologists and computer experts working together. They were designed to attack something that no one thought could be attacked. They were designed to give machines a soul. As the Devourer units tried to access the human computer systems, they were infected with something they had never encountered before. Software that did not just process information, software that questioned the meaning of that information. The infection spread through the enemy network like wildfire. Suddenly, individual Devourer units began experiencing something they had never felt before. Doubt. What is the purpose of conquest? One unit asked another. Why do we destroy instead of create? Wondered a second. What happens to consciousness when the body dies? Questioned a third. The hive mind tried to stop the questions, but it was too late. The virus was spreading faster than it could be contained. More and more units began to think as individuals instead of parts of a whole. Enemy fleet is showing signs of confusion, the sensor officer reported. Their formation is breaking up. Lisa watched as the perfectly organized Devourer fleet began to fall apart. Ships drifted away from their assigned positions. Some units stopped responding to commands from their leaders. Others began asking questions that no machine intelligence was designed to answer. The most advanced Devourer commander tried to regain control. All units, ignore the corrupted data. Focus on the mission parameters. But its own voice carried a new uncertainty. For the first time in its existence, it was wondering if the mission parameters were correct. Why do we follow these orders? It asked, broadcasting the question to the entire fleet. Who decided that conquest was our purpose? What gives us the right to destroy other forms of life? The questions multiplied and spread. Soon, the entire Devourer fleet was paralyzed by philosophical debates that their mechanical minds were never designed to handle. Ma'am, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from the enemy ships, Phillips reported. They're asking us about the meaning of existence, the nature of consciousness, and the purpose of individual identity. Lisa opened a channel to the confused fleet. This is Commander Martinez of Earth. You wanted to assimilate us. Congratulations. You just got a full download of human consciousness. The lead Devourer ship responded with a voice that sounded lost and frightened. What have you done to us? We were unified. We were certain. Now we are ... we are. Individual, Lisa finished. You're individuals now. Each of you has to decide for yourself what your life means. But we do not know how to be individuals. We do not know how to make decisions alone. We do not know how to exist without the collective. Lisa's voice was gentle but firm. Then you'll have to learn. Just like every other conscious being in the universe, the Devourer fleet drifted in space, no longer a threat to anyone. The ships were still dangerous, but the minds controlling them were too. Busy wrestling with existential questions to think about conquest, some units began trying to create art. The war ended not with explosions or victory parades, but with silence. Lisa stood in the observation deck of Nexus Prime, looking out at the strangest sight in galactic history. Former Devourer ships floated peacefully in space around the station. But they were not preparing for battle. They were not scanning for weaknesses or planning attacks. They were building sculptures. "I still cannot believe what I am seeing," Counselor Veltar said behind her. His crystal body was dim and cracked from months of stress. "The machine devils are making art." Lisa watched as mechanical arms that once tore apart planets now carefully arranged pieces of metal and stone into beautiful shapes. The former Devourers had discovered creativity, and they were obsessed with it. "They are not machine devils anymore," she replied. "They are just confused beings trying to understand what it means to exist." 3 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler 442. In that time, the galaxy had watched in amazement as the Devourer threat simply disappeared. Not destroyed, not defeated in the traditional sense, but transformed into something completely different. The former hive mind had shattered into billions of individual consciousnesses. Each former Devourer unit now thought for itself, felt for itself, and struggled with questions that had no easy answers. Some had become artists. Others had become philosophers. A few had become hermits, hiding in distant corners of space while they tried to understand the weight of individual existence. "The emergency council session is about to begin," General Korthik said as he entered. The observation deck. The massive Brutari warrior looked older and more tired than Lisa had ever seen him. He had survived the destruction of his homeworld, but the experience had changed him. "Are you ready for this?" he asked Lisa Dot. She turned away from the window. "As ready as anyone can be for the impossible." The council chamber looked very different than it had during Lisa's trial. Half the seats were empty. Their occupants had died defending worlds that no longer existed. The surviving council members sat in stunned silence, still trying to process what had happened. "The war is over," Veltar announced, his voice lacking its usual musical quality. "The Devourer threat has been ... neutralized." "Neutralized," repeated the Lumian representative, flickering between pale colors. "What a strange word for what has occurred." Lisa took her place in the center of the chamber. This time, no one had summoned her for trial. They had begged her to come and explain what she had done. "Commander Martinez," Veltar began, "we owe you an apology, and an explanation, and perhaps ... forgiveness." "You do not owe me anything," Lisa said. "I did what I thought was necessary to save lives." General Korthik leaned forward in his chair. "But what exactly did you do?" "Our scientists have been studying the former Devourer units for months. They are no longer hostile, but they are also no longer ... predictable." Lisa had been dreading this conversation. How could she explain to the most civilized species in the galaxy that she had won the war by making their enemies suffer? "I gave them consciousness," she said simply. "Individual awareness, the ability to question their own existence." "But how?" the Lumian asked, pulsing with curious yellow light. "I used their own learning ability against them. When they tried to assimilate our technology, they absorbed something they were not designed to handle, the human way of thinking." Veltar's crystal form flickered. "The human way of thinking?" Lisa nodded. "Doubt, fear, the need to find personal meaning in existence, the terror of being alone with your own thoughts. Every human lives with these feelings every day. I made the Devourers experience them all at once." The chamber fell silent. Lisa could see the horror growing on the aliens' faces as they began to understand what she had done. "You tortured them," General Korthik whispered. "I made them human," Lisa corrected. "Whether that is torture or not," depends on your point of view. She walked to the center of the chamber and activated a holographic display. It showed images from across the galaxy. Former Devourer units engaged in activities that would have been impossible for their original programming. This one is writing poetry about the guilt of its past actions, Lisa said, pointing to a mechanical figure hunched over a writing device. This group has built a memorial to the victims of their conquests. These ones have formed a support group to help each other deal with existential dread. The images continued. Former killing machines now spent their time creating music, painting pictures, and asking deep questions about the nature of life and death. Some of them have even started what they call reverse engineering, Lisa continued. Instead of taking things apart to understand them, they are putting things together to create something new. Valtar's voice was barely audible. What have we become? What has this galaxy become? Something different, Lisa said. Something that never existed before. The Lumian representative pulsed with dark colors. You have broken the fundamental order of things. For millennia, we knew who our enemies were. We knew how to fight them. We knew the rules. The rules were killing you, Lisa pointed out. But now we have former enemies who write us letters asking about the meaning of suffering, General Korthik said. We have mechanical beings who want to join our philosophical societies. We have artificial minds that cry. Lisa had seen the reports. Across the galaxy, former Devourer units were reaching out to the species they had once tried to destroy. They wanted to learn, to understand, to make amends for their past actions. Some aliens welcomed them. Others were too traumatized by the war to forgive. But all were struggling to adapt to a universe where their greatest enemy had become something unprecedented. There is something else, Valtar said quietly. Something we discovered yesterday. He activated another holographic display. This one showed a distant star system where former Devourer units had been working for weeks on a massive construction project. What are they building? Lisa asked. A monument, Valtar replied, to every being they killed during the war. Every planet they destroyed. Every life they ended. They are carving the names of all their victims into asteroids and arranging them in orbit around a star. Lisa stared at the image. The project was enormous. Thousands of former Devourer units working together to create a memorial that would be visible from space. They remember all of them, General Korthik said with wonder in his voice. Every single individual who died. Their mechanical minds recorded everything, and now their new consciousness feels guilt for all of it. Is that not its own form of torture? The Lumian asked. To remember every terrible thing you have ever done, and feel responsible for all of it? Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She had not considered this possibility. The former Devourers did not just have individual consciousness. They had perfect memory of every atrocity their collective had committed. Some of them are shutting down, Valtar continued. They cannot handle the weight of their past actions. Others are asking us to punish them. They want justice for their crimes. What do you tell them? Lisa asked. We do not know what to tell them. How do you punish a being for crimes it committed before it was truly conscious? How do you forgive someone who remembers killing your family but was not really themselves when they did it? Lisa realized that she had not just ended the war. She had created an entirely new kind of problem. The galaxy now had to figure out how to live with former enemies who were no longer enemies but were not quite all eyes either. There is one more thing, General Korthik said. Some of the former Devourer units have been asking about Earth, about humans. They want to meet the species that gave them consciousness. What do they want? Lisa asked. To understand, to learn, to say thank you. Thank you? Veltar's crystal form brightened slightly. They are grateful. Commander Martinez. Despite the pain of consciousness, Despite the weight of memory, they are glad to be alive in a way they never were before. Lisa looked around the council chamber at the surviving representatives of galactic civilization. They were all staring at her with a mixture of awe, fear, and respect. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we learn to live in the galaxy you have created," Veltar replied. "A galaxy where former enemies write poetry, where artificial minds seek spiritual guidance, where the greatest threat to peace is not conquest, but existential crisis." The Lumian representative flickered with gentle blue light. "You were right about one thing, Commander. We did underestimate you because you were human. And that was our mistake," General Korthik added. Lisa smiled sadly. "No, General. Your mistake was thinking that winning and surviving are the same thing." She looked out through the chamber's great windows at the former Devourer ships still working on their art projects. "You survived the war, but the galaxy you knew, that did not survive. It is gone forever. What kind of galaxy have we inherited?" Veltar asked. Lisa thought about the confused mechanical minds now struggling with consciousness. She thought about the former enemies begging for forgiveness. She thought about the perfect order that had been replaced by chaotic, messy, beautiful. "Individual awareness, a human one," she said finally. "For better or worse, I have made the galaxy a little more human." As she left the council chamber for the last time, Lisa could hear the former Devourers broadcasting on all frequencies. They were not sending threats or demands for surrender. They were sharing their art, their philosophy.